civil society groups all over the world are the principal advocates in the defense of human rights, dignity, equality, rule of law, and democracy. We are and shall always be the conscience of the nations, independent of government's interference, and shall never be stooges to anyone, but ensure at all times that issues are balanced in the interest of the masses and for good governance to thrive. As stakeholders in the Nigeria project, it is pertinent that we always make our position known on national discourses, especially when democracy is being abused, concern for rule of law, or when national security is being threatened by the activities of individuals or groups. For the very first time since our independence proclamation in 1960, Nigeria has witnessed uninterrupted democratic rule for 2 decades, and we must all agree that this is a feat worth applauding. Therefore, we must do all that it takes to guard this with all the might we can muster. Today, we can boldly say there is an overwhelming increase in civic and democratic space as seen in citizen participation in governance, unlimited freedom, media independence, and above all is the complete independence and separation of powers among the 3 arms of government, to wit, the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. We as a country have made progress in infrastructural development, freedom of the press, and human rights defense. And equally, we have made tremendous progress in transparency and open governance. There are many noble initiatives of the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration, such as the implementation of TSA, BVN, daily publication of government spendings, amongst many others. There is increase in tolerance for criticisms from political opponents and opinion molders. No one is being intimidated on account of saying his mind or by reason of any protest march to demand for good governance. Freedom of expression or any other actions that challenge the government's action or issues of national significance have been allowed to thrive unfettered. Without doubt, there is an upsurge in irresponsible mass mobilization to cause civic unrest and overthrow a democratically elected government. This is very sad, and as civil society groups, we condemn it in totality, and we shall fight and resist same. We will never and never ever tolerate any unwieldy protest under the guise or smokescreen of hiding under human rights. These band of anti-patriotic elements have been moving through sponsorship of undemocratic individuals on the payroll of the country's enemies. They have found collaborators who reside in faraway safe havens of London and New York to champion their crusade of destabilizing our government, as was done in Libya. And we all can see what is happening today in Libya. Not too long ago, this led to the overthrow of the Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi of blessed memory and the total Balkanization of the Libyan state, with complete breakdown of law and order, when citizens now resort to self-help in the midst of anarchy and anomie. The likes of Nnamdi Kanu, Omoyele Sowore, and several others in their class have provided themselves to these vested interests, both local and foreign, to serve as agents of destabilization. We wholly and totally frown at that. Let it be known that they are not alone in their voyage to Golgotha, because they are being cheered on by those who have lost in the last election, that is the 2019 elections, on account of the fact that they were wholly rejected by the overwhelming majority of Nigerians. The containment of such elements of anarchy by the Department of State Services, DSS, is not only a patriotic move, but it is also altruistic, because such elements deserve no freedom until our country is secured against internal and external security threats, which they also pose and portend. The judgment of the Supreme Court still subsists until this date, as reflected in the case of Asari Dokubo, who was the appellant, versus the Federal Republic of Nigeria as the respondent. In the case of SC 208/2006, the Supreme Court posited or ruled as follows. Where national security is threatened, or there is the real likelihood of it being threatened, human rights or individual rights of those responsible take second place. Human rights or individual rights must be suspended until national security can be protected or well taken care of. The Supreme Court did not mince words in passing this landmark judgment. We support any moves or actions by our security agencies, particularly the Department of State Services, led by a seasoned professional in the person of Mr. Yusuf Bichi Magaji, who has demonstrated so much dexterity and competence in adherence to international protocols for the efficiency of internal security. Furthermore, the Nigeria Police Force, led by the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Mohammed Adamu, and several other security agencies, we must surely commend them for their sacrifices in helping to keep our country, Nigeria, safe and secured. No responsible government will tolerate any act of sedition and orchestrated violence to overthrow a democratically elected government. Nowhere in the world, not in Britain, not in America, not in Asia, will this be tolerated. Individuals or groups who champion such moves must be confined to the gulag. Recalcitrant elements hell-bent on creating chaos and anarchy and civil unrest to torpedo a democratically elected government, their unconstitutional means must be dealt with as deemed appropriate by our security agencies in consonance with the law. We wish to commend the Department of State Services for rising up to the occasion to nip current and emerging security threats in the bud, just like others before them. The way and manner the Department of State Services neutralized the threat posed by Nnamdi Kanu and Omoyele Sowore shows an improvement from the past. The DSS, under the current leadership of Mr. Yusuf Magaji Bichi, is truly reformed and refined. We salute the bravery and professional conduct of the men and women of the Department of State Services who daily put their lives on the line to keep us safe as a people and a great nation. We call on all the security agencies to domesticate the reforms initiated in the DSS, which has seen to the enthronement of pristine professionalism with candor in consonance with the highest global standards. We salute the DSS and all other security organizations for containing all national threats, for safeguarding our democracy, whilst we state our commendation for their tolerance to genuine and objective criticisms. The National Human Rights Commission should, as a matter of fact, stop giving cover to criminals under the guise of human rights or in defense of human rights championing. National security issues take precedence over rights of individuals, particularly when these individuals are known anarchists. But it is not every matter that the Human Rights Commission should be harping on to the extent that it now crushes, grinds, and suppresses the national interest of security. We wholly and totally frown at that. The National Assembly, the Senate and the House of Reps, we pass a vote of confidence as a resolution on the National Assembly and on our national security agencies, particularly the Department of State Services, for the daily sacrifices they are making in keeping our country safe and secured. More so, the National Assembly should grant more powers to the security agencies through curtailed, imminent and imagined threats to national security. We urge eminent members of the bar and bench to always put national interest over and above any other considerations, and never to succumb to blackmail and propaganda from any individual who intends to cause violence for conflagrations or to allow security threats to prevail. We are using this medium to call on our fellow compatriots from all across the nation, from the various states of our federation, to always support our gallant men and women in uniform, and to be mindful of their criticisms when national security issues are at stake. Let us make criticisms to the extreme. It impinges on the powers or on the capacity of these security agencies to act. We tend to box them to the corner, and at the end it will be to the detriment of us all. Amnesty International Nigeria should know that Nigeria as a nation is a sovereign entity, not a colonized territory. And meddling into our national security issues, they stand at risk of being declared persona non grata by the Nigeria civil society community. Finally, we must not forget the reverberating statement of our dear statesman, Muhammadu Buhari, to wit, Nigeria is the only country we must remain here and salvage it together. It is this that spurs true patriots like us on an eternal vigil as defenders of democracy, human rights, rule of law, justice, and equity for all. We thank you all as we remain in the task.